Hello, my name's Doug Hagstrom. I'm one of the hosts today. The other hosts can introduce themselves.
Hi everybody, I'm Noah Rio. I'm one of the other hosts.
Hello everyone, I'm Francesca and I'm invited to be today to join you, and I'm looking very much forward to the session.
Yeah, we've got people just dropping in as we speak, so we'll see as we grow, and depending a little bit on how many participants we have, we'll decide a little bit about how we work. But really the purpose of today is about working together to understand how we can all get better at selling femtech, and some of those lessons are general lessons and some of those lessons are very specific about both femtech and also female founders, and that's me, a man, explaining that problem. So Francisca will do a much better job than me. But we've got a few people still coming in. What I can do though is give you all access to the Miro board. So we will probably use the Miro board, at least to work out who's here, and a little bit of an introduction. But if we don't get too many more people, then we'll probably keep the discussion as live and as people focused as possible. So.
So another point, Doug, that we need to ask participants is that if they are okay for us to record this session. If anyone, because it is already recording, if anyone doesn't want to be on rec, they should know it is.
Yes. So yeah, and so it's being recorded, so that will happen, and it will be edited and may appear, I think, at the final Tech4Eva event, a little snippet. So if you don't want to see your beautiful face on screen in that context, then turn off the video and you can still participate, in your normal glory. But it is great to see faces. I don't like to shout into nothingness, and neither do Laura or Francisca. So it makes everyone stay slightly more personable if you could keep the video on. But if you don't want to, that's also fine. So I think we haven't sort of changed participants in the next little while. So I'd like to get started. I've actually we have a Miro board, and I think we will use it for the, what do we think, Laura, Francis, could we use it for the introduction?
Yes,
yeah, we could, yeah.
Yeah. So in the chat, I'll just put it again. There is a link, and I will bring everyone to me, and I would like you all to find your name on the left-hand side, and if you don't see yourself there, then simply copy the post-it note and move it across. And I'm not there myself, so I'm just going to copy Daniel and show you live how this works if you're just following along, Doug, and copy across here. And what I'd like you to do is think about it and add a little emoji or a text or something that symbolizes your most memorable rejection, which is something that we've all done when we've sold our companies or worked with them. or applied for jobs, or or done lots of other things in life. We've all been rejected in different ways. So I'd like us to share some of those rejection stories. So you've got a little bit of time to copy your name across and think of a rejection story. And if you can add a little sticker as well to make it, to pimp it up a bit, but I'll just. Thank you, Anna, for your. I've got a much more boring one there. So, and also, while you're waiting there, are there any other expectations or topics you'd like to talk about today? You can put them directly in the Miro board or in the chat as well. We'd love to hear from you about what you'd like to hear as well. While we're starting, we'll do an introduction of Francisca and why she's here in a minute. But as we continue, who would like to share a story about their rejection or their most memorable rejection?
I'm happy to start.
Thank you.
If it's okay. So, hey everyone, my name is Daniel, Dr. Kulin. I'm a medical doctor and a co-founder in a small startup where we are dealing with cardiovascular monitoring of high-risk pregnancies. Our product is called PregnaScan. We are located in Hungary, Budapest, in the center of Europe. And well, we have some experience with rejections. My most memorable one was maybe in an incubator program here in Hungary, where I really wanted to tell the others like what we are dealing with. And I was really enthusiastic about the product, the medical concept, the science behind. But it seemed that nobody really got what I'm talking about, because everybody was interested more in the business part. How will it make money? And, they were interested in the business model. I had no clue about the business model as we are doing something new. There's no benchmark on the market. And I really wanted to let them understand like what is the science behind, because that's the core value. That's what we are doing. And everybody was just blinking. And it took like almost 4 months for for a lot of them. After the end of the program, they even did not understand what we were talking about. There were some who would understand, but it's really hard to translate the scientific invention and the greatness into business language and to communicate. We have improved in this way, but still it's hard to talk about science for business people. Thanks.
Yeah. Great, and your emoji is fantastic.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Diana, you have also put something in there.
Yeah, it's a speechless emoji and timing emoji. So yeah, I got a rejection because I could not, for example, make calculations on study power calculation and design before I have the clinical data, which I will have in 1 year time from the time point as we speak. And I told them what the options are. It will be either A, B, and C. And because I need the data, which will come in 1 year, and then I can tell them whether it's A, B, or C. And they said that they don't want to hear this. They want to hear what I will do and not what options there are. And I was rejected because of this. Because I cannot see in the future.
22 of being a healthcare company.
Yeah, basically because I cannot see in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Who else would like to go?
Can I say one?
Sure.
Our most memorable rejection was this year, some months ago. We signed a term sheet with a very big VC company, which I won't name. And for 6 weeks, we went with them through the due diligence process. And in the end, we had a term sheet signed and everything. And in the end, basically, they got back to us and said, we made an internal business decision. We are not going to invest in you. And we never, ever found out why.
Wow. That's hard.
Yeah. We still don't know why. So, because the due diligence process went really well. But yes, we moved on, and luckily our the smaller investors who were participating in the round were still on board and didn't fall through, and they were very happy to keep investing in us. So we managed to close like our interim funding round. But it was very hard because we lost 6 weeks basically in the due diligence process, and we thought the deal is signed, but clearly it wasn't. So. Yes, I just want to recommend to everybody, even if you have signed a term sheet, don't start spending money because you never know. I know this happens in very few cases. Usually, I think just only 5% of cases. So be aware, careful.
I always like to have something that is not directly related, but today I failed. But my rejection was from the company who was like the rejection was, we don't see value in your company, we don't think it works. And then 3 weeks later they buy exactly the same technology from somebody else, and it's sort of like, you could have, you don't have to lie. And I think that's the thing that I think hurts a lot, is when investors sort of try and smooth the edges by lying to you, when actually, the truth is a much better thing. And then we could have explained why we were better. But anyway.
Yeah, I can add to Doug. When I was trying to build my own startup, I was rejected mainly because our technology could not be patented. And this was such a full stop for a lot of investors. Here in Switzerland, that we don't have a patent. So I could explain all the beautiful perks of our technology, that we will save lives, but money was more important too. So, yeah.
We are in the same shoe. How could you overcome this issue?
Yeah, me, I don't want to discourage you, but me, in the end, I had to stop. But it's difficult when they only see the perspective of the money and you see the perspective of saving people. For instance, it's maybe Doug, you have some advice, and Francesca for sure will have some advices.
Exactly. That's why Francesca's here.
Yeah, she's here for this. So.
Yeah. Shall I comment on that?
Let's actually keep going. Let's just do one or two more, and then I'll explain why we're here, and then we can get back to really learning and do this. Unless you have your own rejection story, Franziska.
Oh yeah, I have some, but I think the most painful rejection story for me fits a little bit to the topic. And it has been when I was looking for a new job and has just 2 small kids. One was just newborn, and I have several that I went really well until the end, until knowing the team and almost signing the contract. And when the question came, how old are your kids? Then it was immediately a turnaround. So that has been very painful to learn. That is very difficult. And I think that fits a little bit in the topic of today. Fortunately, I think there are employers who don't see it like this, and at the end it turned out well. Or at the end I said I only want to work for somebody who accepts me with children. So yeah.
All right.
Can I say something to that? We have one employee that we just hired. She actually has 3 kids by herself, and her husband or her partner has other 3 kids. So she is looking after 6 children. And our COO said she's perfect for LACTAP because the more kids you have, the more you are made for our company. So she's perfect. and so that's, I just wanted to say that. So it doesn't work like this in all companies. No.
Okay. Leva or Nicholas, did you want to add something to your, or someone who didn't put something on the board?
Oh, yeah. Not such, because we are a small company right now, so we didn't face such issue with VC and stuff like that. But I guess we will have some in few months.
Well, hopefully we'll help you on that
Yeah.
On that journey.
But it's always difficult, like someone said, that it's always difficult to explain that we want to save people and people are focused on money. So it's always that's why I put this emoji, because I'm always angry that people don't care a lot about the others. They just care about their money. So that's why there is some angry I have to keep with me. Some anger, sorry.
Yes. No, but I think we'll definitely get to that topic and some of the other stories. So I think there's plenty of food for thought there. And before we get started though, and hand over to Franziska, I'd just like to talk a little bit about Tech4Eva and sort of why we're here. Or rather, it is who sort of sponsored us to be here and brought us together. And a little hands up for all of you on participants. Is this your first exposure to Tech4Eva, or have you been doing some things already with them, either physical or emoji hands up, if this is your first time? There's a couple of first timers, but most people have been here before. Okay, then I'll be pretty quick through the presentation then. But the first thing I'll do is who am I? Doug Haxman is my name. I'm hosting this focus group on behalf of Tech4Eva together with Laura Rio. My background, I was a chemist, did a startup, did some talking to people, have ended up helping startups in the digital health area for the last 5 years. I currently work at the University of Basel as a day job and run 2 accelerator programs, one in antibiotics and one in sub-Saharan Africa. So I understand the no business problem. And I'd like to hand over to Laura to introduce herself.
Yes, so my name is Laura Rio, and I am a medical biologist by training. I've done my PhD in innovation in antibiotics, and then for 6 years I've worked in neonatology, and try to implement new technologies, new tech in the medical field. And so that's why I'm so interested by all of your great ideas and startups, because it's my passion, innovation in medical science, and more recently in everything that it's neonatology linked. And as I mentioned briefly before, some years ago now, I tried to build my own startup. So I have some I've been a bit in your shoes, even though I was not on the successful ones, but I still learn a lot, and I hope I can share some insights with you today.
And Franziska, just a short intro, and then we'll do the full intro later.
Yeah, very good. My name is Franziska. Hello, everyone. I'm by training, I have a commercial background and worked throughout my life in very small and very big and mid-sized companies, mainly in the life science field, in marketing and sales related positions. I was often very customer focused jobs. And I'm with Hemex since a little bit more than 3 years, where Hemex, I will tell you a little bit later about the details, as Doug said.
Okay, great. So what, why we're here. So what we're about is selling femtech today and helping you in that journey. And we have Franziska Stemmler who's coming to join us. We're part of the Tech4Eva program. As most of you have heard that before, I won't go into exactly what that is, but I'll just stop on two pieces. One is the idea of these focus groups is about community. So how do we learn from each other, and how do we make connections, and how can we help you to both learn from each other and learn something and share that experience. So that's why we'd like you to talk about your rejections, and we'd like you to sort of share as much as you can today and learn from each other. So that would be what the goal is today. We have 4 sessions that we've done. We've had 2 already. One was around, understanding what it is that you need. The second was around the pregnancy journey. Today's about selling femtech, and the last one will be a little bit around a deep dive, hopefully around some of the science of pregnancy and some thoughts there. That's the sort of the activities in the focus group. And then at the end of it, what we're trying to do is one, have built a community, and then have learned something from each other. So we'll try and capture those learnings in a way that hopefully reflects your experience. That's really what it's about. It's about sharing challenges, hopefully finding some opportunities and some networking. So hopefully you'll hear something from someone today, and you'll try and follow up with them. So yeah, if you want to make any connections, then get in contact with myself or Julie, who sent you the invites, and she can share with you any contacts that you need, or you can always stalk people on LinkedIn if you'd like to. It's a well-proven technique now. So that's the introduction. And I'd like to hand over to Laura and Franziska. And I'll just stop the share for now.
Thank you, Doug.
So, Franziska, are you starting?
Yeah. Shall I start with the presentation?
Well, I think just a little bit around your history, Franziska, and why you're interested in being here.
So a little bit about myself. Yes, as I shared already with you, I'm as you hopefully see, a woman myself. I have 2 small kids. Now they're not so small anymore, but still young. I worked throughout my whole life. So also during, of course, I had paternity leaves or maternity leaves, but at the end, I realized how difficult it can be for women when they want to continue to work. And within, and I will tell this a little bit more later in my presentation, throughout my whole journey, I came to the conclusion that it is very important to support each other. And with that also to create, and what we see here in Tech4Eva, this opportunity to create a network and support for helping and creating the awareness that that to progress. And so when Doug asked me when Doug asked me to join me, I of course was very excited, because it's one of my really strong passion to help young women, and also beside women, also all the femtech companies, because that's an additional topic that is very difficult in the current circumstances to support. And yeah, that's a little bit in a nutshell from my side.
Okay. Great. So, Francisca, what would you like to do? Do you want to jump into some of those key questions, or do you want to start with your presentation and we loop back to see if we've got them and inspire some more questions as we go along?
Yeah, I could do both. I think some of the questions might be touched a little bit in the presentation, but maybe we could, maybe the community can decide if we should. I have to all the questions, or to all the rejection, I have actually made a note, because it's something that is very common. Each of the comments you made is very common. And I think I could add some or give some insights into this that hopefully is helpful. Maybe here also to say could be that it's not always what you like to hear. Doug, you said before, it's important to be honest. And I think you will get most out of it if you get my honest feedback. Which doesn't mean that I don't understand what you say. So we can go with that ahead and then do the presentation and maybe continue later on, if that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I start with the comment about the rejection you have made, Daniel. And I think you're definitely not alone. I think you have a huge community that exactly feels and lives the same thing as you do. You have a brilliant idea, you have something that really helps, but people don't get it. These business people, you said it very nicely. I loved how you said these business people don't get it. And now that's really true. I think that's in many, many, many cases. And there we have one issue that I see often. And now I'm talking to you more from the VC side. Put yourself in the shoes of the VC. They are not understanding the science in many, many times. Maybe at a due diligence at the end of the road, they have somebody joining that really or has an idea, but they don't get it per se. So and you also mentioned very nicely that you worked on the business model. Actually, yes, it's all about the business model. So there, I really, really would encourage you to think and to get as much as possible insights of exactly these people that don't get it. So you understand them and you can translate your story, so they hopefully get more an idea of what you mean or what you actually can do. I don't know if this makes sense.
Yeah, I just realized that that's the way we have to take. However, I would suggest the VCs to hire some scientific people, and they should evaluate the projects first. Because if there is no scientific background or there's no novelty in it, it might be a good business model. But I understand. So even if I put in their seats myself and I say, yeah, I have 1 million euros and I want to multiply it, obviously I wouldn't give it to some geeks who do not know how to multiply my money. I would give it to business people who would know that how to do that. So, but still there is a gap here between the inventors and the business world. And yes, inventors have to learn how the business works, and it will not work vice versa. I accept that.
Yeah, I think it's important to get, it doesn't mean that you need to do it yourself, but there are a lot of smart people around that can help with the translation of something and really make the story. It's a story you're selling to VCs, and that's what it is. And I think also a key topic, and I discussed this with Laura and with Doug while we were preparing. We cannot give a recipe or something like, if you go according to that recipe, you will receive a lot of VC money. It's a difficult topic, but we can maybe understand how we can approach them in a different way to become hopefully more successful. And I think that is something that really would help. And yeah, it's important to dedicate enough time. I think when you're science driven, and that's totally understandable, you look at the science and there get the business side to you as well, and to help with that.
I think there's another thing, which is it's not just the business of someone's going to make money out of investing in you. What you also need to understand is that someone has to make money by using your product.
Absolutely.
So your science might be great, and if it did get into the clinic and the person in the clinic did choose to use it, that could help. But all of those things have to happen, and you need to be convincing those people as well. I think a lot of startups get the first hurdle they have is trying to convince an investor, and you may well succeed with enough good translation and learning to tell the story to convince an investor to give you $500,000 or something. But you then have to actually convince a doctor or a nurse or someone, and then also an insurer, that what you're doing adds value to them. And it's not necessarily always dollars. There's lots of other things, but you really do need to understand how you're creating value, whatever that is. And I think that's the...
Thanks.
Yes, and if I may add, for instance, in my case, it's not always generating more money. It can also be saving money. For instance, in hospitals, if you provide a solution, in my case, it was to decrease microbial infection in the hospital. You can also sell this, that they will save money by using your solution. It's not always generating more money. I mean, that's also a way.
Any of the audience have any tips? How many of you have gone from a failed science story to a successful business plus science story? Christiane looked like she was almost about to add something.
Yes, I think our problem is a bit, you were talking about VCs, and I actually agree with Daniel that maybe VCs should also have scientists in their in their group. In general, I think VCs need to have a bit more diverse decision makers. So in our case, we are solving a problem that only women have, 100%. So if we are pitching our solution in front of decision makers who are 95% men, do you see how difficult it is for us to get past this problem and to make them just get it? It's nearly impossible, because most of them would say, oh, I have to actually ask my wife if this is really a thing, if this is really a problem, because they are men and they cannot have this problem. It's physiological and it doesn't affect them. So yes, if more decision makers would be women, then we would get much faster to the goal. So yeah, we see the frustrations. We've seen them a lot, and it was a really, really hard journey.
I totally agree with you, Christiana. I totally agree with you. 100%. I think that is what we need to work on. This group, everybody here can work on that.
No, exactly. And you know how many times we have had the associates of the VC firms were often women and younger, and they said they saw it, they passed our deal on, and then the decision maker is a guy with white hair, and you know, it's absolutely not our target market. So do you see that it's very difficult to pitch our solution to people like this?
Yeah.
You're right. Sometimes we have to do some analogy to what trouble, what issue men can have. For example, we explain that we are taking care about between two appointments to the practitioners, and then we have to make the analogy to the cardiovascular issue, in order for people, to all people especially to understand that they, between two appointments, they are not follow-up, they do not have any follow-up. So even if it's for women, we have to make some analogy to people we are talking about.
Yeah, but it comes to the other issue. What I saw on the Miro board, this no data but can decide without data, catch-22 situation. So we have to be able to prove our investors that the users, what Doug has said. So the doctors, nurses will be happy to use our system. They can save lives. They can, spare money. They can do a lot of good things. But in order to prove that, we have to make studies. And these studies cost a lot, and we have to convince the VC to give us money for make the study, with the results of which we can come back and we can ensure them that yes, it's we have hard data on how the users will benefit from it, and sometimes this is also an issue, and I'm pretty curious what Franziska is about to say about this issue, but we can still stay in this topic.
Vanya, you've been trying 4 times now.
Thank you very much. I wasn't sure if my headphones work, so I didn't want to make the step. Yeah, because also my comment is a little bit maybe off topic. What I realized also during our progression we made is how we present, and not maybe just how we communicate our project, our idea, but also from the presentation itself. So compared when I see many years ago how the presentation looked like, it was really like a scientific presentation, which had a lot of details, maybe wasn't even so nice, not maybe, it wasn't at all a nice presentation. And what we did is really got some professional help to demonstrate and to make clear, to make it nice, to bring out the important points, to take away all the additional information that are just too much. And we really improved our presentation a lot from a perspective how it looks like, and also how we present. I think this was a huge game changer for us that was needed to also bring more traction to our company. I hope you heard me.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Vanya.
I think that's definitely true. Franziska, did you want to keep going with another of the questions?
Yeah, we can go to what Diana said. It's for me, this is a typical question that a woman is asked. You are a CEO, a female CEO, and investors and VC tend to ask you critical question, negative question about data, about risk, and not so much about opportunity and growth. So I think this is, and I would not say they do this on purpose. I'm very much believing in this unconscious bias, and I would also, it should not be blaming or shaming people. It's really how humanity grew in the last years, and it's a fact that women get these kind of questions that are very difficult to answer. And
Up to impossible, I would add.
yes, and this is something I think which is of course difficult, but it's a dynamic. And then you get this question, and then you start to turn around in circles, and it gets all into a very negative spiral, which is normal. What you can do about this, you can prepare yourself. You can when you get such questions, or you write it down, and then you can create possible scenarios in advance to answer them that lead to something more positive.
But this is exactly what I did, Francisca. Sorry for interrupting.
No,
and I
good.
gave them the 3 possible scenarios, and they stood in front of me, of course, 6 males, and they said, no, we don't want to hear scenarios. We want to know what you will do in 1.5 years. I mean, what will happen? And I cannot tell you what will happen because I need the data. And they just didn't want to hear it, just ignored.
Yeah. And I think that's also something I touched with that on my presentation. Women sometimes, we are sometimes very cautious with telling we want to be 200% sure. It's the same. And Doug knows me already a little bit. I like to make the analogy to the job interview. It's pretty much the same. It's proven that we ask for less salary. It's proven that we ask for we doubt more on promotions. And here it's exactly the same. In terms of talking to VC, they want to hear about big visions. And we are cautious and honest. And sometimes in a day-to-day business, this is definitely the right thing to do. But sometimes with a VC, you can also just assume that's how it is, confidently. I think that is something to overcome, and it's not so easy, but that's what they want to hear. So let them hear it. So solve it when you have the problem later on.
Would you suggest to make some little lies? Is that what you're suggesting? Or to base, for instance, in the case of Dina, to maybe you have scenario A, B, and C, and just select the one you think is the most probable and sell it like it's the only one.
Sell it, because you anyway sell a vision. You will know it after,
then
after
you explain
the clinical.
after.
Yeah, you anyway sell a vision. You know it after the clinical trials.
Yeah,
you don't know it before, but you still need to sell your vision. And a vision is what VCs are going to buy. A vision they make a lot of money with. Don't lie.
Told once, stay the biggest lie, you can still go to bed.
Yes. No, you just sell a vision. You don't, of course, you don't need, you need to prove it. I see many pitches, really a lot. And I hear a lot of things. And then I'm sitting on the other side, on the shoe of the investors. And I also ask sometimes question, how is this? And this needs to be proven in a trial. And people sometimes say very confident, of course, but this data we know already, we are pretty sure and we are convinced. So there's a lot of self-confidence sometimes. And we all know that we first need to see the outcome of the data.
Yeah.
And it's typical that you get more caught up into this. You get it asked more probably, and you try to answer it more accurately than maybe many of young or other young entrepreneurs. Something just to be conscious about. It's not about lying. It's not about not telling the truth. It's about selling your vision.
I think the no reason rejection, I think, Franziska, there's probably no good tip there other than
there's only one thing, and I think you said it already, Christiane. It's the money is there when it is there, not when it is signed, when it is transferred. And maybe one good tip to give here, if you see your round is too long open, make rather a quicker closing. And then with less, but it's closed and you have the money. Then waiting too long, because that's a risk.
That's what we did. Because otherwise, if we could have knocked another 20 doors, so we did with what we have already. We've got very nice investors who back us up, but it would have taken us a much longer time. Yeah. And can I say something to what you say, Franziska? What you are asking women to do goes against every stereotype that we have learned growing up as a woman. Because as a woman, you're not supposed to be so overconfident and overselling. Yeah. That is not our typical stereotypes. So we are asking women to really changing what they have learned all their life and to actually adopting completely male traits when you are going into this pitch room. And this is so difficult and so uncomfortable. The process is really, really painful for women. Really painful.
I'm totally aware of that, and that's why I'm saying that. And I'm not asking you to change, but I think you just said before, and you pointed it out very accurately. I'm sitting there in front of 6 men with ties and gray hair. To convince those men, you need to go this way. And we need to work that in 10 years, there is not 6 men with tie and gray hair. That's what we need to do. But that's what today we need to work with what we have.
Exactly.
So then we need to think, what can we do about it? And,
yes.
And that's one topic. Be more confident. It's what we also learned for the job interviews. Be more confident. Ask for something, or be just not lying, not doing something completely wrong, but showing the confidence and dare something. Dare to say things you believe, because you believe in what you do. You all believe in your ventures. That's definitely, otherwise you wouldn't get hurt when you get a rejection. You believe in it. So you can show that also and be confident, because that transmits it to the people. I know it's not so easy, but it's
Thanks. I think it's a great. I've just put in the chat there a connection from part of my day job, which is called the Femtrepreneurs, and it's an initiative started by a number of different organisations across Switzerland trying to support female entrepreneurship. And they're actually starting from the inspiring females to getting females at the VC board. So have a look and join. The last one, the no patent story.
Yeah, I can be very brief on that, but no patent is really for VCs a no-go.
I know.
That's really a fact. And but there are options to patent something else when not the technology. There are specialists. So if you have no patent on your technology, I really urge to reach out to a patent specialist. There are some really good ones they're also specialized in the life science area, and then they can look at it and can find things that you never thought they could be patentable. But there are solutions for that. I can only give you that hint, but you need something.
Yes, but you agree, Francesca, that not all the great innovations, and even the ones who make a lot of money, not all of them are patented. So don't you think that some VCs could also be a bit more open-minded and just, for instance, try to be the first one to do it in the best way? Because I think it's a bit for instance, at EPFL, there is so many patents because they patent everything. And a lot of them, they have no use.
Yeah.
So it's a bit also to shift a bit the vision. I think it's also needed. I mean,
yeah, I think this is a very difficult topic,
yeah,
and it's the biggest threat for a VC is that he went 1,500,000, which is money, in something, and then somebody from China copies it and makes it cheaper, and that is the key problem. If you have an answer that this wouldn't happen, I think then that's something to talk about. But it's basically one of the first questions everybody asks. But that's why I say, if you have a technology, and I've come across such technologies, there sometimes are ways around, not exactly on the technology, but on other things. But I'm really not the expert there, and there are experts on this that can help.
Yeah, I think this one will be really interesting as we get more IT investors coming in via digital health. Where maybe there's a moat to be built around data, maybe there's one to be built around around the user experience or the experience of the person using it in the hospital, or some other ways to do it. But we'll see. Like I don't think there's been and even the ones that have been successful so far have all had still some level of we've patented something there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just to keep patent lawyers happy. That could be this whole thing. It's a whole conspiracy theory of patent lawyers. Anyway, so I captured some of those sort of things on the board, but I would suggest now that Franziska, you actually give your presentation that you've prepared, and you just share that. And if people would like to, feel free to add to the Miro board in the section, if in terms of key topics. If there's something here that has really helped you, feel free. I'll just bring everyone to me. Feel free to add something in the theme column, and what it is about what Franziska said that helps you, and also add to sort of what I've put in there. I mean, it would be great to sort of have a bit of collective intelligence here. So if there's something that helped you, maybe it'll help someone else, and something we could record and share for others as well.
So I try to share my screen. Let me know when you can see it.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So yes, thank you again for being here in this focus group. Pregnancy and postpartum is often associated with happiness, and it should be. In many cases, it is also. In most of the cases, hopefully. It's also what society expects from families, mothers, young mothers, and so on. However, while I was preparing a little bit on this topic, I came across some numbers. In the US alone, every year, 700 mothers die during or after pregnancy. And most of the pregnancy-related deaths could be prevented if they get healthcare before, during, or also especially after pregnancy. So I thought that is really something I wanted to share with you, and shows how important the topic per se is. So very briefly, again, about me, most of all. So I started about 3.5 years ago at Chemix as a startup scout. I was very much exposed to innovation. Today, I'm leading still at Chemix the sales and marketing teams. In my corporate time, I got trainings on diversity and inclusion. I was leading in one of the big corporate diversity group in Basel and member of the EMEA D&I strategic group. So there comes the area of general diversity and also gender diversity, but beyond that is something very close to my heart. And I'm extremely passionate to support women, female founders, female leaders, and femtech innovation. At Chemex, we invest in femtech. We have currently 10 startups in our investment portfolio. 3 of them are femtech startups, and 5 of our investment portfolios are led by female CEO. We believe in the importance of that femtech space because it resolves many unserved needs for women, and therefore has a strong social impact. So what we want to encourage our co-investors is to take an opportunity and dare to invest in this field now. And in this respective or in this context, I would like also to mention that we plan a small awareness campaign about femtech, and anybody who is interested in being involved can reach out to me, and we can see if we can do something together on that. So why do femtech business struggle? We talked a little bit about this, and Christiane, you will see there are some topics that you mentioned already come up here again. Most of the femtech companies are led by women, and only 2.3% of venture capital funding went to women-led startups in 2020. And as already also briefly discussed or talked about, 90% of investment decision makers are male. And they sometimes are not so comfortable with the topic concerning women. We have often their taboo topics, such as menstrual health, sexual health, that they feel really, really uncomfortable. And then we talked also a little bit about the pitching styles, but also, or general saying, in principle, female founders and femtech founders have a more difficult time with VCs. So in that perspective, also, I found that pitch book analysts have suggested the absence of investor support may be due to lack of sizable exits. This is absolutely explainable because femtech is quite a new field. As I said previously, women's health is really underserved currently still. It's a new space. And therefore, there are obviously not so many exits and unicorn stories to share. That makes VCs doubt sometimes because they cannot really find something to relate to. So they often like to have a story, and then they can make a relation, and then they think, that technology works like XYZ, who also made an exit. And we see it also many times when startups come pitching, that they refer their technology to a similar field where there has been a big exit. That is an additional challenge for femtech. So the investment community still try to make sense what it is about femtech. So it's, for me, generally, it's to understand the opportunity, or that this is an opportunity. First of all, it's not an oversaturated market. So we have many startups that are in different fields, but it's crowded. It's very crowded. The femtech market is still very open because although women exist since the beginning of human, it's still very new. Then 50% of the world population is female. Means it's quite a big target group. Of course, now there could be a comment, okay, not 50% of women will get children in terms of pregnancy-related technology. However, I think it's still a big enough market to be served. Then the market gap is still a market gap with little or no competition. Sometimes it's little, sometimes it's no. That is a huge benefit. Of course, that makes it for femtech companies currently difficult because you have not what I said before, these comparisons, but actually it's to make a story to show that this is an opportunity. Because at the end, it's big enough to attract VC. It's also foreseen and seen that the femtech world or women's health will accelerate. And there is already some predictions that they expect that the market will reach 1.1 billion by 2024, which would be quite a good number. So, femtech is still a young sector, but it's a sector to watch out, and it's an opportunity for this future as other big, big developments in history. So how do we convince investors that this is an opportunity? So I think in this group, we agree it's more difficult, there are many obstacles, it's definitely an opportunity, there is a market, there is an unmet need, but how do we now translate this to the VCs? One thing, there is an economic benefit. Healthy women are more able to participate productively in the labor market and with direct consequences of effective labor supply and a level of growth and economic output. Better health also increases the return of investment, educational investment. Then also very important is that better health of mother will also translate in better health and affect better health of the children directly already in utero, but also throughout the childhood. And that is, and I think, Doug, you mentioned that before, it's not only about making money, it's also about saving money. And remember, 50% of humans are female, so the market is there. Watch out when pitching. So some of the points we have addressed already, but I think we can also repeat it here again. So there's one important topic that recently has been spotted, and I've seen it in a number of areas. Women are more likely to use digital tools. So in particular, having a femtech company that uses digital tool has an additional point of sale, let's say, an additional value. Then to understand the pitching dynamic is very important. We discussed it briefly with you, Diana. It's women are really a lot of time asked about risk, and not men are more asked about growth. So there it is really important to think and all the time, how could, or when you get these critical questions, write them down, write anyway, whenever you pitch. Don't pitch to your target investors first. Whenever you pitch, write down the questions afterwards. Think about them, think about to answer them. And I think especially for women pitching, your questions will often be associated with risk, and there you can practice already to find a positive ending of your sentence, how you can maybe create almost a bridge. And then also something what I discussed, or what we briefly discussed already, there's the different pitching styles. For example, venture capital world they're really used to big visions and growth projections and unicorn promises. and it's actually true, and that is what investors want to see. So they can believe that their investments, they're very high financial, has a high financial upside or a high return. Female founders tend to be more real, more honest, more conservative in their growth projections. And yeah, in the daily business, this is really good. I think that's really smart and makes sense, but it does not sell. And therefore, give your projections confidently. Also on that part, it's really or to think about when you are in a team. Sometimes you are two founders. You will also see, or I observed it myself many times, that the CEO, when the CEO is a woman, and you come with your co-founder, that might be a man, that this person gets all the question, and the women get more the question about, the soft skills question, let's say. Have you talked to the nurses or something like that? Would be a typical question for a woman. So don't get yourself upset about this. Talk with your co-founder, with your pitch partner. If you get such question, how you react, practice it, and take them on, because that shows confidence. Don't get upset. Don't get angry, because that doesn't bring a good spirit. And also something that was mentioned before, that it makes you all angry, or it makes you angry that for VCs it's about money. I do totally understand that, but I think that is something that just needs to be accepted. A VC doesn't give you money because they're nice. They're not doing donations. Maybe an angel investor does an investment from the heart, but for a VC, it is about money. And it's better to understand that and to address that in their perspective. So you have more chances to actually get the VC money. Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah.
So far. Thank you very much.
I think we can have a discussion around that instead. I just like to highlight women actually use digital tools is, I think, fantastic. Like the dumbest thing about medical science is that we do all our research on 22-year-old white Americans, males. Like, it's just stupid. And unfortunately we've built, businesses are now being built around their traits and habits, and that's what they do. Whereas I think if we can actually say, look, women, and particularly pregnant women, and also women and their partners, occasionally men are useful, are actually, like, this is a unique instance in most people's lives where they will actually record lots of data and be really excited about it. So it's really is worth highlighting the fact that pregnancy in particular is a unique chance to engage with a community that will stay engaged for at least 9 months, or well, give or take. Leva, you have a...
Thank you, Douglas. Franziska, thank you very much for a great presentation. It was very informative and I really enjoyed it. And I would also like to mention the point about using digital tools, because this was something new to me, something I didn't know. And I was wondering if you could share a resource on this data that women are more willing to use digital tools, because I've just searched a bit online, but I've not been able to find anything.
Yeah, I have more than one resource. I can share that.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Yes. I make a note. I can either send it to you or to Doc.
Actually, I'm interested in having those information too, if you have Franziska.
Mm-hmm. I can share it. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I put a link in the chat to a more general article, and at the end of that rabbit hole somewhere is the original piece of information.
Yes, and it's also that women are often more compliant in using those tools because it concerns their health, and therefore it's really something that can be exploited more.
Any other thoughts or that came out of the presentation, or questions that are unanswered?
Maybe more than the thought. First of all, sorry to be late, and thank you very much, Franziska. It was really interesting. Sometimes we really have the audience is changing so much. If you're talking to a general VC audience or medtech audience or to a impact-driven audience, and you always have to switch out the pitch, and you always have different types of. Maybe you can share some of your experience with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The pitch should always be. And sorry, I come again with the job application. So if you apply for a job, because I think it's such a good analogy, and everybody can relate to, if you apply for a job, you normally go on the website of the company, you see what is looked at, you find some keywords and you add them to your job application. So in terms of the audience where you're pitching, it's exactly the same. Really look into who you are pitching to. What are the people? And I think we have had it today, earlier also mentioned, VCs should have people that have science background. They have, but a science background, what does it mean? It doesn't necessarily mean that they understand a particular, they might understand a particular technology or well, but another one less, because it's so versatile, and of course not for everything. Also depending on the focus of the VC, they do not have specialists for everything. So it's important to understand who is on the phone and to whom are you pitching to. If you do a first pitch, you often pitch to somebody very general. So tell a story. All you want is that they catch your interest. If it goes on, you might get some specialists, or some VC even hire people for doing a due diligence. So sometimes, for example, we at Temex sometimes get asked to do due diligence also for startups or just in a certain area, or give an opinion that is a little bit less than a due diligence. Therefore really understand who is it. So for example, if you pitch to someone that introduces himself as a medical doctor, of course, you don't need to explain the condition in detail and all these things. So these are the little tips and tricks. Try to find out who is it opposite you. And then what kind of a person is it? Is it somebody who really wants straight to the point? Don't, if they have a lot of questions, there are people that like to interrupt a lot. That can be disturbing. Also here, women get more interrupted. There are people, they are not really aware of what it is, depending on what you have. I think some topics make them feel embarrassed. Think about how you can build a bridge from people being less embarrassed about some topics. So they can more relate to it, because especially when it concerns only women. In pregnancy, men can more relate to, and infertility topics also, because it concerns them maybe more, maybe not. But in some of the other topics, I think where you, Dana and Vanya, I just know the two of you, the two companies, have more struggles, that it is, because for many men, the applications or the solution is really embarrassing. What I've seen and experienced and also read is that, and it's an interesting one, in the Middle East, investors are more open to invest in femtech. it's less a hidden topic, which is which I was also not expecting, but that's actually true. So that could also be one thing. Then going to investor, selling visions. It's often good when you sell your vision or when you come up with numbers that you have evidence on this. So make really your homework, go to many people, let yourself challenge. Let you ask as many questions as possible, embrace critical questions, because that prepares you for the VC. When you get very critical questions at the VC and you unprepared and you may be even a bit shocked or annoyed, they see that from your facial expression, and that can have a negative impact. So prepare yourself as much as possible, and keep smiling, and try to come with the evidence, with the numbers, and learn with every pitch.
A question for Dana and Sven. I'm not sure when you came in, but we had a conversation about the need for patents. I'm just interested, are you actually relying on a patent to protect your service or not?
Okay, so we are working on the matrescence journey, which is a massive mental, physical, and social transformation of the woman from the preconception stage towards when the child has 3 years. So because it's mental health and it's also linked to other kinds of health, the question was what kind of IP can we have there? And we're working on the Motherhood Vitality Index, which is like a different type of scale, not only to detect mental health pathologies, but also to measure well-being, because we understand in the market there is no way to understand, to relate the well-being of a woman during this journey. How well does she feel, and why, and what are the different aspects that can make her feel better, and how does this relate then to the health and well-being of the baby? So the first thing is this Motherhood Vitality Index. And the idea is to work with behavior science to capture data, of course, and to try to build a new index that we can use both for the B2C app as for the B2B approach for the medtech, the hospitals to follow a patient. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it made sense, and I thought it was interesting, and I think answered Francisca's point around innovative things to patent.
I didn't get the question, the remark, your last sentence.
I think you're breaking up. Yeah, I think you broke up. I also didn't get the last sentence.
No, I was just saying that it's an innovative, it's something innovative to patent rather than just that. So I think a good answer.
Correct, yeah.
It's around the innovation, not around the actual, what you actually do.
No, I think it was what Doug was trying to say is that when you cannot patent something, try to still bring some value to demonstrate your innovation. And for instance, the creation of an index could be an alternative to the question, do you have a patent? Do you have a patent? If you, for instance, in mental health, what can you patent? I mean, you don't always have a technology that you patent, but you still have some value. So for instance, this index maybe could be copyrighted, I don't know. And this could reassure the investors that there is some value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also, and I'm not familiar with the details, but it's also to see the whole model, so the patient journey and what is the benefit and who is paying for it at the end. Sometimes the beneficiary pays, but sometimes not. And I think then getting the data and the outcome and with an index, that sounds interesting.
It is, as you said, in Spain, you say, who is going to pay for the party?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And of course, because the woman is really going from a gynecologist to a pediatrician and sometimes a midwife, nobody's really responsible for this 4-year journey. And that's why we also have to reinvent how the healthcare sector is looking at the mental health and the integral health of the woman. So,
I totally agree, because, for example, especially postpartum, I mean, this is something that that happens frequently, and it's seen as, she has a bit of a postpartum depression. That's what it comes out, but actually it's a condition, and it's not something when you impacted by it. It's not that you can decide to have this or not. And I think that is really the challenge of femtech, that many times things are just accepted because in the last 50, 60, 70 years it was done like this. And there's often also wrong treatments. And if you find something that you can show the journey and the value of it, which I don't doubt that there is a value. It's absolutely. And using this and have some outcome definitely is something of value.
What you said is true. Sometimes the VC asks us, but did you have depression? So trying to relate what we're doing into the field. And if you run another business, it's not so.
I mean, that is really the topic, and that is also interesting, because if you develop an oncology product, nobody will ask you. But if you develop a femtech product, you're often asked these kind of questions. So it's also a question you can prepare to. And I think there are many answers. A good answer is always a one with a smile and with evidence. So try to find as much data as possible. Data, and there's a lack of data, but there are existing data, and if you find that and can confirm that, that is really good. And then the other thing is really make a story. Make the story more impactful, more emotional. And sometimes this helps people that they feel impacted. Some people have family, some people not, but some people maybe have seen that, seen such situation. But of course, and there I come back to what I said, is often a taboo topic. People also don't like to talk about it. They feel embarrassed. Also with postpartum depression, it's often hidden. It's embarrassing. That doesn't make it easier. So therefore, I think it's the data and to be very confident about it. This is a problem, and actually with having tools to help in this area, we can do something. We can. What would it mean, for example? Or I would be interested. This I don't know, but I would be interested. How many women couldn't go back to work because they had postpartum depression? And also it would be interesting to see the journey. How was the care before, what you said? Women go to midwives, they go to the gynecologists, they maybe even go to the hospital if they have some special conditions, so they have many points of contact. But actually you can also decide not to go. And maybe if you don't decide not to go or do less, it's not because it is a decision. It's not really that you pushed into this. So there are many aspects on that.
I think it's a great problem. And I think what's interesting is that gets to exactly what a lot of the conversations have been about today, which is this is an obvious problem. This is truth. This is a problem, and society is worse off because of it. But how do you find that individual or that group or that thing, other than some society, who's actually going to do something about the loss to society of women from the workforce? And I think it's a hard question. But I think a lot of femtech is actually fighting that problem, which is to find that real person that can pay at the end of the day has enough interest to solve the problem.
Do we still have a good time for a question? Yeah. Is one of you working in the digital therapeutics field or in the future digital therapeutics field? That would be no.
Some people who are, if you'd like to be connected to some of them.
That would be nice, thank you.
Reach out to me afterwards, Sven, and we can have a chat and see how we can connect you. All right. Any last questions?
I don't know if it's a question, but I would like to thank you again for this great initiative. And I don't know if there's no real competition between us. If we can sometimes have 1 hour and we can pitch one for the other. I think in the Femtech array would be interesting because we're talking about the same field, related fields. And if somebody is interested, we could do that and exchange some thoughts about the pitch from one to the other, if you want.
Yeah, it's funny, we haven't done it in the focus groups. It may have been done somewhere else. Julie can take that question back and maybe we have it as a sort of an open/closed session, because I think it's really good. And I think you learn a lot from each other, and you should get over it, because some startups are like, I don't want to share or whatever, or someone's going to steal my ideas. No one's going to steal your ideas. You're only going to learn from each other. So I think it's a great thing to do. So I will take it as my homework to try and make someone do that.
What you also can do, if you have such a group, just as an idea, you pitch each other and then you pitch each other's startup. Because when you pitch, for example, to Leva, and then Leva pitches your startup, you will see what she understood.
It's a great thing to do. I've done that in the program where people have been in a boot camp for 2 weeks, and then at the end of it, we just the last morning, we just said, "All right, now you have to pitch this person." No preparation.
Yeah.
And it was really enlightening for those people who were like, "But you don't understand my business."
My technology. No, that's really, if you can do that in very short words, then you make sure everybody understands you in an elevator pitch what you're doing.
Then the last thing that I'd like to do before signing off is I'll just invite you again to the Miro board, and if you could add, what did you like about today? What would you like to have improved? Any ideas for the future, like, just an unmoderated pitching session, or any other sort of ideas you have. You should come to me on the board. If not, please put in the chat any other thoughts you might have about what was good about the session, what would you like to have improved, what ideas have you got? So there was people liked some of the points and reasoning there. That's great. And Francisca's presentation, I think we can share afterwards, and we'll put on anyway. A bit more talking about data and how to get it and things. I think it's a good one.
Yeah, on my presentation, I can add, I have some reference points. And I have it as a backup slide, so I can add that.
Thank you.
Yeah. The idea of taking a pitch and a VC talking through it would be is an interesting one. That's a good idea. other ideas about the great patent problem. And yes, there was a comment around having more structure. We maybe would have had more structure with Francisca's presentation, and maybe less energy. So that's a choice we made. But I think that's a fair comment.
Doug, may I add small comments regarding to patents and VCs? I mean, there is also a lot of alternative ways to have money injected in your idea. So you can consider crowdfunding or things like that, in which people are not so focused on the patent, which is also an interesting solution, especially if you don't need 1 million. I mean, if you need just some small injection of money, that could be a cool way also to explore, because today we focused a lot on VCs and we did not speak about business angels, crowdfunding, and all the alternative routes. So just...
Yeah, agree. Non-dilutive funding,
foundations.
There's some other areas.
Foundations, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. And an intro for each participant. Yes, the group was almost small enough to do that. If we broke it into groups, we would have done it. We kept the group large, but together. Again, a choice. But I think you're right. We probably should have given everyone an intro beyond just their rejection.
You were talking about non-dilutive fundings. Of course, the Graal would be the European fundings. And for that, we need some kind of cooperation between the startups, the company and the university. So of course, if you see that you will have related startups, we can also think for next year to try to build something together, to go beyond what one is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That Sven, we should talk more. My talk at the university, so and there is a lot of that stuff for all of you. I assume all of you are in Europe, but the non-dilutive funding journey. I mean, it's not free money. There's a lot of administration in it, but if you do find the right thing, then it is a good way forward. I think my only concern is. If you get stuck on the non-dilutive funding bandwagon, you never actually take the step to get dilutive funding and leave non-dilutive funding. So I've seen companies get stuck in non-dilutive funding and they'll never get out. They'll live for 3 years and then die because they won't move fast enough.
I do agree with you, Doc, 100%. I think non-dilutive funding is really important, but it's complementary to the dilutive one. And not exclusive. If you are forever non-dilutive, it's...
Yes. Excellent idea from someone to do intros in the chat. We could have just done that. I've learned something today. Whoever was smart enough to do that. But yeah, Julia, I'm not sure if you can share who was here with people in terms of who was actually on the call, whether you can share that with a link to the recording other than or how that actually works, but we'll see what we can do.
Sure. Simone receives all the information, the recording and the attendees. So she will send it to me or share it on the drive and I'll edit the video and everything.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions and thoughts? Thank you from me for a very active session. Laura, Francisca?
Yes, thank you to Francisca for her inputs and presentation. I think it was very interesting. And I saw that all of us still we are still learning, even if we go to endless meetings and conferences and we read about it, we still learn something. So thank you very much.
Thank you also to all of you for sharing everything and for being open, and thanks a lot. I enjoyed it very much this afternoon, and thanks to Doug and Laura for inviting me.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening, Ken.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Very much. Bye.
Bye.